Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the show. The Atheist Experience is live February 29th, 2004. I'm your host, Martin Wagner. Ashley Perrien, my co-host. And joining us on the air today is Russell Glasser.
Hello.
I guess still our producer, technically, one of them. And
sort of, yeah.
And producer of Nonprofits.
Yep.
And all-around ACA go-to guy for this, that, and the other thing.
And
so
henceforth, one quarter of the co-host tag team.
Yes, I suppose we should go ahead and start with this. I have an announcement to make for the few of you out there who haven't heard it yet. This is it for me. This is my last show. 4 years on the air, and it's been a great deal of fun. But I figured, it's time. It's good. That's a good long run, and it was never really my plan to be the Johnny Carson of the Atheist Experience and, do it for 35 years. It was sort of like, time to move on. But it's been a terrific experience, and I've enjoyed being like the public ambassador to the group, so to speak. And now it's time to turn the reins over to this man who's going to do an amazing job.
Well, we've enjoyed having you as host.
Yeah, well.
We have learned lots. So.
We love you, man.
So anyway, what just happened? Anyway.
I'm already repressing that memory.
That's fine, good. So that's it. It's been great, and I've enjoyed it, and so we're going to have a really fun show today to kind of, I'm going to have a fun show today anyway. And so let's go ahead and get on with these announcements, right? I guess you all know who we are by now. The Atheist Experience is sponsored by the Atheist Community of Austin, a nonprofit educational organization promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state. And the ACA has weekly meetings, which are currently sort of in rotation, various locations that we're trying out because we lost our last place. The bagel shop up and closed on us. And so we've just been meeting here, there, and everywhere. Where we can find places and announcing them on a week-by-week basis. So what I suggest you do is visit our website at atheist-community.org, and the weekly meetings page on that website will be something that we'll try to update like regularly. As soon as we know the place where we're going to be of the upcoming Sunday, we'll go ahead and have that up there. So that's what's happening with the weekly meetings, and they're around 10:30 a.m. On Sunday. The lecture series, of course, our monthly lecture series, still takes place every third Sunday. The third Sunday of each month at the Austin History Center at the corner of 9th and Guadalupe. Who is speaking next month?
Alan was scheduled to speak. I'm not too sure exactly what's going to happen now because I was talking about having a business meeting. Not positive exactly what's going to happen yet.
Okay, so we still don't know about March.
That's still 3 weeks away, so.
Okay, all right. Well, it's good, again, good to have, those announcements in advance as we can get them.
Yeah.
But that will be the third Sunday of March, of course, and April and all the following months. That's the lecture series, which takes place at the Austin History Center, 9th and Guadalupe. Other regular stuff that we do every week, we have Godless Gamers, of course, every Monday night, 7 o'clock p.m. at this man's house. And everything happens at your house. It's the official party headquarters of ACA.
Right.
And happy hour, which is every Thursday evening, starts roughly 7:30 or so in the evening. And that is at Antonio's Tex-Mex, which is near the intersection of Highway 183 and I-35 on the southwest corner. Antonio's Tex-Mex, impossible to miss. Starts, like I said, around 7:30, but people trickle in all evening long, so if you don't see anyone at first, just hang around because folks will show up. And look for the boisterous, loud table with, I think, atheist fish on it. And that's, if those are still used. Are they still used?
I've never been to happy hour.
Okay.
I think I've seen there
Never?
once, twice,
Nope.
but
Wow, that's worse than me, even. I mean, I have an excuse. I live like
Or better. It
20 miles
depends on
away.
Your,
Yeah.
perspective.
Well, it's a lot of
There's
fun,
nothing
though.
wrong with happy hour.
No, it's
no,
great.
I've been going there the last couple of weeks. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Good discussions. So.
Yeah, it's an evening thing to do, which is helpful for like people who find it hard to make the morning things, and so. Anyway, all right, so that takes care of meetings. Don't forget the Nonprofits, which is our bi-weekly internet audio show, produced by this guy, broadcast from this man's house. I detect a pattern here.
Essential.
Yeah, and there was supposed to be an episode yesterday, but you guys canceled for various schedule conflicts, so the next one's going to be, I guess, two Saturdays
weeks from now,
which will be the 14th of March.
Thereabouts.
Yeah.
That's what the calendar said, so
Okay.
unless it's wrong.
Well, if you check the calendar, then
no, it could be wrong. there could be this massive shift of the Earth's axis, and we could all go spinning into space.
If that's what happens, then the least of our concerns
will be the
nonprofits.
Yeah, and,
Leap year screwed up the schedule, probably.
a little bit. Well, yeah. Well, anyway, but that is every other Saturday. It's bi-weekly at the atheistnetwork.com website. It's a live MP3 stream. But if you have difficulty sort of logging on to the atheistnetwork.com site and getting the MP3 stream directly from their site, Russell has thoughtfully provided a link right to the direct live feed from our website on the radio show page. So you can go there and click on that. And then atheistnetwork.com. This is my first day with my new tongue. I need to practice. They have an interactive JavaScript chat room feature that you can interact with the show.
Yes.
And so and they like it when you guys fill the chat room up.
Yeah, I came into the chat room yesterday just to say we're not on, and before I could get a sentence out, they were like, "Yay, Nonprofits is on!" And I was like, "Oh shoot, I'm gonna have to let them all down."
Well, that was good at least.
Nice
Good
to be
some
popular,
excitement.
though,
Yeah.
Now I get recognized now and again, like just out and about.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it's just sort of coincidental with my last show. But last week was just like one. I bumped into at least 3 people. Various spaces during the week.
I think it's maybe just more people tune in during because in the last couple of weeks I've had about 3 or 4 different people recognize me.
Yeah, and so I told everybody that today's the last day, so we may have some good viewers in today. But very nice comments from folks, and very friendly. So it's nice to know that we have those viewers out there. And finally, last but not least, the University Atheists and Agnostics, I assume, is still in existence. UANA.org, I think, is their new website. Whatever, there it is. But that would be a registered UT student organization for atheists and agnostics. So if you are a UT student or faculty member, check them out. That might be a good group for you. They've been going now for a few semesters. And as I understand, still a going concern. I've heard hide nor hair of...
as far as I know, they do have weekly meetings. I checked their website. Meetings are on Thursday.
Okay.
The location is a little bit in flux, but they've got a schedule posted on the website of where and when they're going to be meeting.
And
so it's every
current and
Thursday.
everything.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Well, that's good to hear. So there you are, uana.org, if you are a registered UT student or faculty member. So I think that pretty much takes care of it for the early announcements. Don't forget, this is a live call-in program. We're here for 90 minutes. If this is your first time to tune into the show, if you're just channel surfing or what have you, and you're startled by the sign, well, we've been on the air now for a little more than 6 years, and we take.
What am I doing on this show?
You're in the wrong studio.
I thought this was defending the faith.
Oh, good. You walked into the right place. But we take calls from folks live over the air, and but our most common questions, the most common questions that theists and Christians tend to have for atheists, however, we have collected over the years, and we've put them on our website at atheist-community.org on a fact page, frequently asked questions, and that's where we answer some of the most basic stuff that Christians who have never spoken to an atheist before might want to know. So if this is your first time viewing, why not check the fact page on the website, because who knows, we may have already answered your question. But if not, we're here and we're going to take calls a little ways into the show. However, if you try to call in and you don't manage to get through, which happens, we usually sign off on the program with about a couple of people hanging on the line. Don't worry, we have our viewer feedback email address, tv@atheist-community.org. is our address for viewer feedback, for you to shoot a question our way. If you have not, if you didn't manage to get in, or if you don't want to call and you're more comfortable sending in an email, that's fine. We answer all the emails that we get, and if we get a really cool one and we're able to bring it on the air and discuss it on the air, we'll do that. About a week and a half ago, got an email in from a guy who, I guess this would have been the last time I was on the show.
Okay.
But I guess we had batted the problem of evil around a little bit.
Yes.
Talked about it.
Yes.
And this viewer writes in and says, well, I've got some great answers to the problem of evil. And what he starts doing is he starts rattling off all of these quotes from William Lane Craig.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if you're not familiar with who William Lane Craig is, he's a very popular apologist who makes the he does the college debate circuit. He's debated Michael Shermer, and he's debated Victor Stenger, and a lot of these guys. Massimo
Pigliucci.
Yeah, he's debated him. So he doesn't. So this viewer wrote in and just rattled off a whole just stream of quotes from this
think
book.
it was like 8 or 9 points that were made.
Yeah, just quoted verbatim, right?
Yeah.
Yes, argument by quotation. I covered that once in my column in the newsletter.
Right, the debating tactics, and I went down the list, just sort of puncturing them all, and sent them to him, and got nothing back.
Yeah.
Which was not entirely surprising, because that's when a theist just rattles off direct quotes to you, it's an indication that he hasn't really thought about it on his own.
What I mentioned in that column actually is that argument by quotation is really, really easy, because all you have to do is pass something along and you don't have to put any amount of thought into it. But the flip side is, if you don't put any amount of thought into it, then when somebody actually answers you,
you can't.
There's nothing
You've
you
got
can do.
You're stuck.
Got no ammunition. So. It was kind of a shame. I was a little disappointed. I was hoping that maybe there had been some indication that he had just thought about these things independently and not just absorbed these quotes and was regurgitating them, but that wasn't the case. But it's on our website now. If you go to our website, and right on the main page, you can see a link to the Atheist Experience viewer email pages.
And we did go over the basics of it at last show. When you weren't here, we did go over that a little bit. So it was interesting that his last 5 points or so were exactly the same thing.
Just kind of variated. But what I thought was insane was that how could he not have spotted the glaring contradictions in the points that were being made?
Yes.
Craig's approach apparently to the problem of evil, as I'm sure you discussed, was that not so much like the free will thing, which is always dragged out, but it had to do with more or less, hey, you know what? When we die, if we love Jesus and trust in God, well, we all go to heaven and forever anyway. Yeah. So who cares that bad, evil stuff happens?
Exactly. Heaven's completely worth it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Whatever you go through in this life, heaven's worth it.
And then he goes on to list an example from Scripture of Paul and all of these earthly tortures that Paul supposedly endured in his efforts to spread the faith, as it were. And Paul's attitude was, I bore my torments,
This slight momentary affliction, as he called it.
That was the exact term. So it's like, no big deal, because this is only going to last a little bit of time. Yeah. And so we're supposed to admire Paul for this and say, okay, well, fine. He had this real, he looked at the big picture, realized that even though he's going through this horrible, evil stuff, and he's being victimized in this way, it's not going to matter, because he's going to be in heaven forever. And being in, forever in heaven compared to a few hours being tortured to death is no big deal.
Not a big deal.
But then, in his last example, Craig trots out Jesus and this incredible sacrifice. Yeah. Right?
The incredible suffering and pain.
So wait a minute. Okay, so so we're supposed to not take Paul's torture and torturing to death all that seriously, because we're supposed to look at that and say, this is but a fleeting momentary affliction. But supposedly with Jesus, we're supposed to be outraged and horrified and say, but he sacrificed everything for you.
Yes, he bore the sin of all humanity. And
I'm like, but wait, you just, what is it that you're saying, Jesus?
Go back a paragraph or two.
Yeah, I mean, according to Craig's own argument, when he tries to say Jesus sacrificed everything for me, no, he didn't. According to Craig's own argument, he sacrificed nothing.
A fleeting moment.
It's just a fleeting.
Affliction.
I thought it was just a fleeting moment, a slight momentary affliction. This incredible torture and murder. And in the end, you get to be in heaven forever.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it wasn't anything that he sacrificed.
You got to pick one.
Although based on the movie we all saw, that fleeting moment was pretty ugly.
Yeah. I guess it's time to segue into that.
Well,
do
we do news first, or shall we go into this?
Yeah, let's do the news first, because then the movie will take a few minutes to
We all
dissect.
saw The Passion yesterday, out of what would you call it? Professional interest.
Well, I've been interested in seeing it for a while. Although my interest in it was actually kind of waning as the movie came out, and the reports of just how grisly it was were kind of making me think, well, kid, so it's like, all right. But went ahead and did it anyway. Because we sort of felt like, well, we can't not. Sort of like,
kind of hard to.
So it's like a school assignment. Okay, I'm going to see the movie. So,
we'll get into that.
But we'll get into it in a bit.
Okay. First, quick thing. Talking earlier about the newsletter, we have a new one out now. This is February's issue, so this just came out today. And yes, it is.
Right on time for the end of
Granted,
February.
it is the last day of the month, but
That's
still.
okay.
New membership form, lots of good stuff.
Jill is still doing a tremendous
tremendous
job on putting that
So-
news. It's still a gorgeous looking newsletter.
Yeah.
Jill is still doing that, right? Jill Ford?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, Jill Ford is still doing it.
Okay.
So, and they do have one of Russell's articles in there, so definitely worth a look. Okay, fine. I'll hold up the stupid newsletter.
Okay, hold up newsletter. The being written exclamation point.
I know.
So they really want to
Okay.
see, yeah. When they were putting
Yes,
an
here's a
exclamation point on the
newsletter.
board.
You're breaking the fourth wall.
Yes, you see, lots in text.
Yes, it's words and
It's called
stuff.
The Atheist. Text. Okay, anyway, actual news now. First off, we have the reports they had the reports done about the Roman Catholic Church and the priests and the pedophilia and
okay.
all that kind of stuff and exactly what the numbers came in were.
So in other words, this is like the final tally
Yes.
of how many victims and how many abusers.
Yes, and these were two studies that were commissioned by U.S. Catholic bishops last year. And more than 10,600 children said they were molested by priests since 1950. And
Let that number sink in.
yes,
minute.
10,600 children.
That's the number that came forward.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's their entire towns that aren't that big.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's
And this is based on self-reporting from the bishops. So if the bishops did not report the numbers for whatever reason,
and if all the potential victims haven't come forward yet, which is still
Exactly.
very possible.
then this number is on the low side.
My.
The report revealed that 10,600 were allegedly victimized by 4,392 priests from 1950 to 2002.
How many priests are there?
Well,
Well,
that's
there's
4% of
tens of
them.
thousands, yeah.
That's 4% of
it's-
them.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, the
Well, I
final
guess
tally
there
was
was something
about
like
4%.
100.
But again, that may
priests.
be undercounting.
Exactly, it may be under somewhat.
4%.
The Archdiocese of Boston on Thursday released local figures for the report saying 7% of its priests were accused of abuse in the last 50 years. So that's Boston alone had 7%. And
But of its priests, not of the grand total.
exactly, not total, just Boston.
Right.
They also say, what is it here? The abuse peaked with the ordination class of 1970, from which 1 in 10 priests was eventually accused of abuse. So it goes up and down through the years, but like I say, the numbers are huge.
Wow.
So that's the numbers that we have now to work with. Over 10,000 kids, over 4,000 priests. So over a 50-year period. So it's getting low in the news right now, but it's still something to at least remember.
Yeah.
So
At least it's out there now.
yeah.
At least it's out there. I mean, there's no way they'll be able to get away with this to that degree of magnitude. again.
Exactly.
But that it even happened is just appalling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Wow.
and something different now. A couple of months back, or actually this may have been a while back, Joshua Davey won a small merit scholarship, and he was going to go to Northwestern College in Kirkland, Washington. He revealed to the scholarship people that he was going to be studying theology, in which
I
case
remember that,
they quickly pulled the plug on it because it was a state scholarship. They figured that this is church-state separation issue. And so they pulled the plug on that and said he's not getting the money. Goes to court, goes to Supreme Court. And Supreme Court has now said that, yes, they have every right to deny that money.
Yeah, because, I mean,
Same.
you know, the precedent that this would have set is that anybody who wants a scholarship has to get it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically how
Yeah.
they were
Is
arguing.
that it? I mean, if because I know that the scholarships you have to qualify for, but are they saying that that because of theology scholarships there would be
the scholarship in question, I think, explicitly said that this. I can't remember the details, but I think there was some provision in the scholarship that actually said it can't be used for religious studies.
can't?
Oh, okay.
Cannot?
I did not see that. It did not say that in this article.
Cannot
This
be
article.
used.
Yeah, can't.
Okay.
Or else there's some state law. I should stop talking about this. It's been
Well,
too
it's
long.
just, I'm still not quite sure where I stand on this, because it's like being a theology student and being a religious studies major or what have you is not necessarily it's not the same thing as going into the seminary and becoming a priest, is it? I mean,
not necessarily. I mean, you can always teach.
Right. I mean, because I know that the atheists have studied, done religious studies at UT, right?
Yeah. This was like a state university. This was, no. What college was this?
Was this
Northwestern College in Kirkland, Washington.
So it's run by the state of...
It doesn't say specifically, at least I'm not saying it as in a state-run college, but the scholarship at least.
It must have been, as they're saying it's public funds.
Yes, but
the
scholarship...
The scholarship was public. Well, then, if this is a church-state separation issue, how can you have a publicly funded theology scholarship in the first place?
That's
that's being addressed by this. Yeah. Yes, I'm still not quite sure where
what they
I am
did say is training someone to lead a congregation is an essentially religious endeavor.
Okay.
Indeed, majoring in devotional theology is akin to a religious calling as well as an academic pursuit.
Well, I guess it could be. Yeah.
So it's definitely a gray area.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also don't have a very solid.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like the clear and present problem that you have with vouchers, where it would be like public money to take you to put kids through parochial school.
Yeah.
Now that's a very obvious, a problem that just stares you in the face. But this is not quite so clear cut.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you gotta go with the court's decisions. So.
And that was on a 7-2 ruling. And most notable was the author of the majority opinion.
Who was?
Chief
Scalia. That would shock me.
Yeah, that would be about.
Oh, that would do the trick. But actually, no, it was Rehnquist.
Oh.
He wrote the majority opinion, which is still kind of surprising. The two dissenting ones, if you
Scalia,
can't guess.
Thomas.
Yes. Exactly.
Yes, yeah.
And their quote, "Let there be no doubt, this case is about discrimination against a religious minority."
Well, what religion is the student?
Exactly. I don't know. It doesn't say.
Scalia has come out and basically said, screw the constitutional principle of of separation of church and state.
Exactly.
So we know where he stands on all these issues.
Yeah. The indignity of being singled out for special burdens.
Talk about activist judges.
Yeah, I know. The indignity of being singled out for special burdens on the basis of someone's calling is so profound that the concrete harm produced can never be dismissed as insubstantial. So that's
on the basis of one's.
That's kind of shocking.
Well, it seems like the politicians and the judges on the religious right are trying to single out groups for special burdens.
Exactly.
Because they don't belong to groups that
they like.
You're
not in the majority, so therefore you suck.
So I guess he knows whereof he speaks.
Yeah. So, but anyway, that's the latest update on that story. So,
all right.
And finally, getting back to what we had mentioned earlier. We know that during the filming of The Passion, in 2 separate incidents, in 2 separate places, the character who was playing Jesus was struck by lightning. Twice during the filming.
What more proof do you need?
Exactly. If you can't take a hint the first time.
It's a sign of God's favor.
You can't take a hint the second time.
Yeah.
No, you finally make the movie and release it. On the first day of its showing, someone in the audience dies.
Well, now, okay, this is... First off, we don't mean to make light of this, but, someone dying for any reason.
Of course. But someone in the audience, a woman collapsed in an East Wichita theater during the morning of the movie, during showing of the movie. The woman in her 50s was pronounced dead a short time later at a Wichita Medical Center. Basically, while watching the movie, during one of the highlights of the movie, she collapsed during the movie. And they did CPR, and they had a nurse in the audience, drove her to the hospital and everything, and she died at the hospital.
Shame.
It's not a good thing at all.
Well, this is
I'm not going to blame the filmmakers.
Of course.
Yeah, I know. She could just have easily have had a heart attack,
of course.
and walking through the supermarket,
right?
Of course.
Of course. Bad timing, bad place.
But it's certainly one of those that
It just scratched it.
Well, we should make it clear here that as atheists, we believe in natural stuff.
Exactly.
And, we don't believe that getting struck twice by lightning is a sign, but they should.
Exactly.
Well, and it also, I think, serves to be pointed out that if this woman had suffered this heart attack, for example, and then had been revived, like with the CPR in the theater, and
Miracle.
Exactly.
there you go. Right,
Yeah.
you would have had.
Yeah, it would have
It's
been a miracle.
the grace of this,
But this way, it's
God
a
working
miracle.
through Mel Gibson's movie.
It's a miracle that the 4,999 other people seeing it in that theater didn't die.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So it's just. It's a real shame that happened, but I mean, it is
Of
one of
course.
these things that you can point to and look at it as an example of
Exactly.
selective thinking among
Exactly.
believers, right?
Exactly.
Because you haven't really heard a peep about, after the initial report, it hasn't been.
Of course. So,
But,
yeah, what a movie,
Yeah.
to say the least.
Wow.
sure,
So-
yeah. Just one of those where you're like,
Nah. One thing that did shock me about it, and this is just a warning to audience members, if you haven't seen it yet, this is not a children's movie by any stretch of the human imagination.
No.
In no way, shape, or
it's not a
form.
movie for a lot of adults.
Yes, I mean, the news said that, it's a gory movie, there's a lot of violence and so on. I figured with how much hype they had over the violence.
Yeah, we were like,
It was gonna be a disappointment.
How bad could it be? People
exactly.
probably just overreacted.
Exactly.
'Cause I
Given
remember-
how many
'cause I remember
Christians
when,
are out there saying it's so violent, it can't be that bad.
Because I remember when Braveheart came out,
Yes.
and I hadn't seen it. I didn't see it when it first opened, and the people who had seen it were like, "Oh, but watch out for those battle scenes because this is some of the bloodiest
Yeah.
stuff." And I saw it finally. I was like, "Okay, it's a couple guys get their arms chopped off, but
Yeah.
it wasn't that bad. You
Yeah.
know, some gore, but it wasn't over the
Yeah.
it wasn't beyond the pale."
Yeah.
But
yeah, this movie was definitely different. Like say, I wasn't expecting that much.
Yeah.
I guess the
But-
highlight that you were referring to would probably be the scene where Jesus gets scourged.
Yes,
which is
most likely.
I mean, certainly the most. I mean, it's a hard scene to take,
Exactly.
regardless of your beliefs.
Exactly.
The scourge is a great big whip with big honking
Chunks of-
spikes on the end.
pieces of glass.
Right.
Exactly. It's
And-
sort of like Cat of Nine Tails
yeah.
style.
And they go over him in loving slow motion detail.
Yeah. Mel loves his slow mo.
They
When
get-
it's like any
Exactly.
violence, it's like he's
ripped up,
just overcrank the
bare
camera and
back,
leave
bare
it there.
chest, and
Yeah.
people in the audience were gasping
Yeah.
with shock.
Yeah.
The
And I
first
don't
time it
blame
happened.
them. I don't blame them in the
Yeah.
least.
Now, it was interesting to me because I'm I'm watching this, right? And I start thinking of other films that
Yeah.
are kind of similar.
You
And
mean ones that are up
Well,
to
just
an
one-
equal level of gore? Or
Well, I mean, I don't have, as a general rule, a problem with violent entertainment.
neither do I.
I mean, I've got in my DVD collection, I've got Italian horror films
Yeah.
and Japanese Yakuza films
Yeah.
that are
Yeah.
that are pretty sickening.
Starship
Exactly.
Trooper, Gladiator.
Yeah.
I like them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm thinking of like Ichi the Killer and Versus and movies that are just really beyond the pale. Stuff that you couldn't make, presumably, in America. You probably can now. And I'm starting to think about, okay, the point of using violence or any sort of extreme content in your entertainment, and of course, Mel's whole, I think, intent is it's like, yes, it's supposed to disgust you and horrify you and
Yeah.
sicken you because you're supposed to feel
Yeah.
what, you're supposed to understand the
Like,
the
oh my
intensity
gosh,
of
my sin did this to me.
Exactly.
Right, that's the
Exactly.
whole idea.
That is, I mean, passion plays are a very time-honored tradition, and that's what they're for.
Yeah.
And so at that point, I think it just becomes a matter of your own, I guess, personal judgment whether 10 minutes of someone being flayed alive on screen nonstop that gets the point across any more effectively than 4 or 5 minutes of that.
Or in this
And-
case, 2 hours.
Or because
Yeah,
this
2
movie,
hours and
Yeah.
6 minutes to be exact.
Yes,
No, no,
because the first 5 minutes,
Yeah.
he's fine.
yeah,
The last 5 minutes, he's okay.
Yep.
Every minute in
Everything between.
he is being beaten.
with
He
sporadic
is-
flashbacks.
He is
yeah.
hamburger.
Yeah.
Exactly. By the end of
mean-
the movie, he is hamburger meat.
And
Yeah.
Jenny, my wife, is a little jaded. She said, "Oh, it's just a latex suit."
What? Yeah, boy, I just imagine, just the effects department just bringing in just barrels,
They
kegs full of Karo
supported
syrup
them.
and-
Yeah, and I was
fake blood.
kind of half wondering, like, whether they had continuity problems, like, oh shoot, yesterday he had a scar here and here, and this is out of place, but again, you wouldn't notice.
Yeah,
Well,
it's not
you-
like continuity with sand on the beach. The grains are, in
I'm sure he
different
had to
position,
have this.
but he's got so much.
He's got an army of continuity people with Polaroids taking photographs of the cobblestones at the end of every day.
Yeah.
Make sure like where the blood splatters are.
Yeah.
But it's it certainly, it definitely was. I mean, it took the wind out of you even to watch it.
Yeah,
it was unpleasant. I was, but again, it was like, did it work as film narrative? And this is where I'm not sure it did, because one thing that was clearly obvious about the movie was that Mel's making this movie for Christians.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. All of this talk you're hearing about in the news right now, and editorials and reviews that are coming out, and especially from supporters of the film. And even before it came out, you had the evangelical Protestant right, which is not usually a group of people that you would see, allying themselves with some Mary worshiper like Mel Gibson, right?
Yeah.
They're all talking about how this is going to be
Catholics bad.
Yeah, this is going to be this amazing conversion tool. This will be. They were comparing it to the movie that the Jesus movie from like 1980 or something, the one that got put on video and sent to everyone. And, and it's been, and that has been a movie that for about 25 years now has been trundled off to obscure parts of the world by missionaries to show the little, the Bushmen in in Africa and to convert them. And I think
wait till the Bushmen get a load of this.
Boy, I was going to start some wars. But but the reason, what the problem with this film as a narrative was that, as you said, it starts in the Garden of Gethsemane.
Yeah.
And then immediately Jesus is hauled off, arrested, and the beatings begin.
There is very, very little storytelling involved.
You get no context for this violence.
If you don't know who Jesus and
It's
Peter and
certainly
Mary
preaching
is, you
to the
won't find out
choir
this
in
movie.
a sense.
Now you can argue that certainly most of the people going to see this movie, especially in America, are going to know the Jesus story.
Of course.
Certainly all Christians are. Most atheists are. And so you could say, well, I mean, that isn't probably going to be that big a problem. But just looking at it strictly as a film narrative, when you don't give a context for
exactly why we're going to beat this guy for the next 2 hours.
So why we should care? I mean, what the film doesn't do, what the script doesn't do, is establish Jesus as a character, establish who he is, what he does, and why it is that he pisses these people off so badly, that they beat him to death. And again, even arguing that, okay, most people going in are going to know who Jesus was and what he taught, and you should love everyone, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Does the film, because it lacks this context, taken in its own right, just constitute an exploitation movie?
Yeah, it is. It doesn't explain anything.
Yeah. Is it just? This is. I read one negative review said it was Christploitation. It's a new film genre, Christploitation.
Yeah.
Because it really is. I mean, it's almost pornographic violence.
It's not new though. I mean, they've been trying to do this. They just didn't have the technology yet to do such great special effects, so to speak.
Yeah.
Now, I think that what Mel Gibson didn't want to do was just a Jesus movie like all other Jesus movies have always been, which would have been, okay, here's Jesus and he's born in the manger, and then he goes and he teaches, and then it ends with the. I think he wanted to focus just on the scourging and the crucifixion.
Yeah, but that's what a passion play is.
Right. So that's.
I mean, so it's not new, but it's new to a lot of people.
Yeah.
But another issue that I would like to mention about the movie. Now, Martin, you're kind of a film student, right? Can you tell me how many pages of script equals, how a page of script translates into a unit of time?
The general rule is when you're script writing, it's a page per minute. It's a minute of screen time per page of script.
Okay, so 200
so 120. A standard film script is 120 pages.
Yeah,
that's standard. 120 pages.
Right. Okay. The scenes with Jesus getting executed in the Bible, way shorter than that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exterior.
Even if you put all four Gospels together, I think way shorter than 120 pages. So there's a lot of filler in the movie.
Yeah. Well,
it's kind of slow.
Yeah, he made an entire 2-hour film based on John 19:1.
Right.
Yeah. And they scourged him.
One verse.
Yeah.
Scourged him. He spent 20 minutes on it though.
Right. But looking at it from an atheist perspective, I thought to myself, okay, if I was some guy and I knew nothing about Christianity, and and the basic story of it, this would not necessarily win me over. So in that regard, I don't know that the movie's successful. It is just this big act of preaching to the choir.
I mean, people are going to have to face up to the fact that, the whole of Christianity focuses on an extremely violent event. They celebrate it. I mean, hymns are written about the blood. I'm washed in blood. That's kind of gross if you think about it.
And for people who take the whole the transubstantiation aspect of
cannibalism.
That's
the bread and wine.
That's that practice. If they take that aspect seriously, that's even creepier. But I thought there were two movies that I was thinking of when I was watching Passion of the Christ that I thought were kind of similar. Well, there were more than two.
Kill Bill.
Not even Kill Bill, because Kill Bill, and I'm going to talk about Kill Bill in just a second. But Kill Bill was like sort of understood that from the moment you watched it, that the whole movie, it was just this homage to cheesy pulp movies, right? And Hong Kong, violent action, martial arts, campy stuff. This is a movie that takes place in the world of B movies, and it was never meant to be taken seriously, and it was so over the top,
of course,
that there was really no risk of it offending anybody unless you're just
not
basically squeamish person. But no, there were two movies I thought of. One, coincidentally enough, it also had Monica Bellucci in it. Was a movie that came out last year called Irreversible. Have you seen this movie?
No.
Anybody seen this movie? Okay. So a movie came out. This is a French movie. Came out last year. It caused a lot of fuss, right? Because it's a movie that's told in reverse time.
Oh, like Memento.
Yeah, but even more like, tunnel vision focused than that. It's told in like literally reverse time.
There was an episode of Seinfeld that was like that.
But Seinfeld was never like this. Basically, Irreversible is about it's about these three people. It's like this sort of this love triangle of people, and what happens to them when this tragic event happens in their lives, right? And it's told with the climax coming first, the bad stuff coming first, and then it kind of goes back and shows like the characters' lives before this happened.
Right.
And so there's this added sense of tragedy because like what's going to happen to them while you're watching them having happy lives, and they don't. And you're kind of like, and so it's really disturbing. But the first 20 minutes of the movie, basically the movie opens with this, one of the most violent murders I've ever seen on a screen. And then it goes back and shows the event that inspires this murder, and you find out that this murder is a revenge killing. And basically what you have is this, there's this scene where Monica Bellucci gets raped in this underground tunnel, okay? And the whole scene it's one shot, okay, for 10 minutes. So it's like the Jesus scourging scene. You have Monica Bellucci getting sodomized in this underground tunnel for 10 minutes. He just plants the camera down, and you watch this, and you're like, okay. And then
I'm a little uncomfortable now.
And then the movie goes back in time and shows like what led up to that. Like, why did she, end up in the tunnel, and then what led to that, and then what led to that, and then what led to that. And so this is a movie that caused a lot of stink. And but the movie does present these violent acts in a narrative context.
Yes.
Okay. Which you can argue sort of gives it a moral perspective. I mean, it's not necessarily just exploitation. It's still disgusting.
Right.
But there's
a reason behind it.
But again, here's what I thought was, you'll never want to see it if you can even make it through those two scenes. You'll never watch the movie again. Is that okay? Here's a movie that basically has two violent scenes in its first 20 minutes. Okay, and then it goes on for about another, hour and a half. Just essentially, it's a normal movie. It's almost a romantic comedy. Okay, essentially, but no real objectionable content at all, right? It just shows these people's lives, and this movie has to be released unrated in America because it would have got an NC-17, and they didn't want to release it with that rating. Okay, so here's a movie that is basically released as adults only. You can see this. We got 20 minutes of violence, okay, on the screen. Now here you have this 2-hour violent film.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 hours of solid.
Perpetual violence.
Yeah, I mean,
exactly.
Blood is coming out of him in just like rivulets.
There's breaks in the form of 30 seconds flashbacks.
Yeah, it's like
those are the only times when there is not violence.
Right, you flash, and then it comes back and it's like crunch, right, and And this is...
They go out of their way to make it as bloody as possible, because it's not even just violence in the form of, Schwarzenegger, he's blasting guns everywhere.
Right, yes, no, I would blow you up.
This is showing, the glass shards coming down and slicing open his back.
Yeah.
And it is explicit. They're trying to do it as much as possible.
And this film gets an R rating from the MPAA.
Yeah.
Which means that parents can take kids.
Exactly.
Right?
Kids can go see this.
And I'm just boggled by that. And it occurs to me, if it had been anybody else on a movie screen getting that kind of violent treatment, okay, this is an NC-17 movie.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, the movie you're talking about, the violence also involved sex, which is more likely to get you an NC-17. In fact, Ebert, in reviewing this movie and saying this may be the most violent movie I've ever seen, also commented that it's real easy to get an NC-17 for sex, but very hard to get an NC-17 for violence if there's not sex involved.
Well, yes and no. I mean, I've spoken to horror directors who tell me all their tales of woe of having to submit and resubmit their movie to the MPAA because they're the MPAA sends it back and they're like, no, you can't have a big sprite going in the guy's eyeball. You got to cut. And so he has to trim that out, right? And they tell all these stories about just how inconsistent the MPAA is, right? Like they submit the movie and then they say, no, take this out. And then they'll take that thing out and then they'll submit it again and then they'll be fine with that scene now. But then there's another one that they suddenly have a problem with that they didn't have a problem with the last time and they want that dealt with. And dealing with them is nuts. So you can get NC-17 for violence, but usually those movies tend to just be trimmed down or the rating gets changed on appeal. But you're right. I mean, you have this movie in theaters right now, The Dreamers, which is NC-17, which is this youth love triangle sex movie that's got a little nudity in it and some kinky sex stuff. Zero violence, right?
Right. They every time a new American Pie movie comes out, they release it, this big hyped unrated version, and it's really almost the same as the
there's
the theater version.
3 extra seconds or something. but it occurred to me, it's so why does this movie get an R with this degree of violence in it? And it's pretty obvious. It's the Jesus story.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I can see the MPA saying, okay, well, we can't give this an NC-17 if it's because it's a movie about Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
It's a Christian film.
It's about love.
And NC-17 movies are all porn, right? Or should be, so we can't. So this is a case of, I think, this film, because of its subject matter and promoting Christianity, getting some special dispensation from the ratings board. Yeah. And that I think it's infinitely more disturbing to me that parents will take their kids in droves to see high school groups.
Exactly.
And school groups are going from churches, are going in busloads to see this film.
I cannot agree with that.
They never
in
take
any
them
way,
to see
shape,
The
or form.
Dreamers.
Because it's absolutely
even
horrid.
if they could get in,
it's a horrid movie.
And that just it just makes me uncomfortable that I live in a country where this split-second flash of Janet Jackson's boob, right? Causes this nationwide furor. Okay. And yet people are, and yet this 2-hour snuff film starring Jesus is considered family. And I can understand you say, okay, well, the Janet Jackson thing was sort of sprung unsuspectingly on people. You can make that point, but still,
people are getting upset about it when it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, it's
if
like
you
this
look at Europe,
shot.
You're looking at Europe, and they're all saying, "What is the freaking big deal? What's up with you stupid Americans?"
Well, even here, I mean, if you've got cable, if you've got HBO, and you watch Sex and the City and stuff like that,
but it's like that's got a warning saying, "Kids, do not watch this."
Yeah. But again, it's just this nanosecond shot of Janet Jackson, and people are up in arms, and you practically got the crowds of peasants in the streets with torches, and but this, and I think that it's because what we have, the wonderful thing about our Christian culture, right, is that it has turned us into this sexually puritanical nation that worships violence.
If we can't get our jolly through sex, we have to get through violence.
Can I say a few words about the anti-Semitism angle?
Yes, you can. Our resident.
I'm our resident non-observant Jew. Not even nearly as not nearly as observant as my sister Karen is, who is also an atheist. And so, the big controversy surrounding this movie has been: is this movie anti-Semitic? Let's see. I want to be fair about this, and I'm going to say kind of.
Okay.
I mean, on the one hand, you got a lot of bad Jewish characters. You have a few good Jewish characters. You also have some bad Roman characters. I mean, some really, despicable human beings who are the Roman characters. I mean, there's these two guys who are taking quite a bit of pleasure in this work of doing
him.
bad things to Jesus.
Yeah, I read something where Gibson's direction to them was act like you're throwing a baseball. When
Wow.
So the Romans don't get off the hook in this, but the high up important Romans do get off the hook.
Oh yeah.
Oh, very much
I mean,
so.
Pontius Pilate, who basically lays down the final order to crucify him. He's portrayed as a really nice guy in this movie.
Yeah,
I mean, he's
he does everything in his power not to do it.
I don't want to crucify Jesus, but this bloodthirsty mob of Jews is telling me to. And, this is biblical. I'm not going to pretend that it's not biblical.
No, if you read chapter 18 of John,
where the Jews say, crucify him, and it's our fault, too.
And Pilate is saying, I can find no basis for charge against him.
Piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean,
times.
I'm not saying that this is not true to the original story.
But Gibson really goes out of his way.
Yes.
To focus on
not only are the Roman... not only are the Roman characters shown in the best possible light, I mean, the important high-up Roman characters, but I think the high-up Jews are shown in the worst possible light. I mean, you've got Caiaphas...
Bloodthirsty.
Every single thing in the movie is his fault. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean it's pretty. Well, again, if you read chapter 18 of John, right? It's pretty much it plays out like that, right? You have Jesus arrested, and he's hauled up before Caiaphas, and who interrogates him, and it's almost like a scene out of some mob movie, right? Because you have. Caiaphas is standing there, and he's got his little henchman.
Yeah, exactly.
Standing next to Jesus, right? And you almost imagine them with these little fedora hats. And anytime Jesus gives some smart-ass answer that the priests don't like,
smack him around.
Yeah, I go, well, as a matter of fact, I am the Son of God. And they don't care for that answer too much, so they rough him up, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay, let's try that again. No,
I mean.
So it's not, and then they take him and they bring him before Pilate, and Pilate, has a very gentle. It's almost like they have this little philosophical discourse.
Right. Like, I'm so tormented by this fact that I might have to crucify this guy who I think is innocent. But what can I do?
I find no basis for it. I find no basis for a charge against him.
Yeah. Now Caiaphas. Well, okay. What I'm going to say is there's this whole group of people in who are the Jewish temple elders. They're all the bad guys. Now, you can make a case that there are some really nice Jewish people. I mean, they even go out of their way to say, here, this guy who's carrying the cross, you, help him carry the cross, Jew. They try to draw attention to that.
I like that scene from The Life of Brian Bedder. Oh, let me shoulder your burden for you. Thank you. The guy runs off.
But, the message, I mean, cynically, I kind of suspect that the message there is, well, if you're a Jew who's actually involved in promoting the Jewish religion, then you're bad. So, so the little people, the Jews who are just going about their daily lives, they're not bad. But the people who are actually involved in getting people to be Jewish, very, very bad.
Right. Well,
and that's my take.
Well, again, certainly it follows the Gospels in that regard, and of course most historians have pointed out that this movie is overtly ahistorical in terms of Pilate's characterization. I mean, Pilate was a bloodthirsty bastard. Right? I mean, he was recalled from his post.
Yeah.
Because he crucified so many people. He was he even sort of offended Tiberius, the emperor, with how ruthless he was, and Tiberius was not exactly, Mickey Mouse in terms of being, mass murdering emperors, right? I mean, Tiberius is the guy who's you get the quote, "Let them hate me so long as they fear me." Okay, that's how bad he was, right?
Yeah.
So it's pointedly ahistorical, and then you have like these little bits that Gibson tossed in, like Pilate's wife bringing the towels to Mary.
Isn't she nice?
Yeah.
And what do they use these towels for?
And they mop the blood.
They mop up his blood.
And which is a scene that Gibson invented. But
another interesting one that they did have in there, which was definitely an interesting spin, was they had the character of the devil.
Yes.
Which I must say, in the very beginning, I thought it was God.
No, I didn't. When the worm crawled out of its nose?
Well, for the first, 2 minutes or whatever when he was speaking, I thought it was a representation of God.
Huh.
Well,
Instead of having his
actually,
booming voice or something like that.
I knew it
thought
wasn't
something like that.
because I heard the Bible Answer Man that evening, and he was mentioning that the devil was played by a woman, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Although when you watch it, if you don't know, it's either a very effeminate man or a very butch woman.
Yeah.
It's very gender ambiguous.
Yeah.
Well, it is an actress playing the role, and then a male
Okay.
voice was dubbed.
Oh, I didn't know.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, I didn't know that.
So to make it gender ambiguous.
Jeff
that
D. Mentioned, who I also
Yeah.
saw the movie with, mentioned that this is a very Catholic thing. That
Yeah.
people not fitting into their defined gender roles is extremely evil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not necessarily
Maybe,
a Catholic thing these days.
Shed
but-
some light on the current gay marriage controversy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
But yes, that was a very interesting aspect of the movie. I found that they had that devil character going throughout it.
Yeah.
And then at the end, they kind of show the defeat of the devil character. So it was a very interesting way to kind of show what had happened and what's going on with Jesus.
yeah, I mean, there were some narrative things that I thought he did very interesting.
Yeah.
Some visual representations.
Oh.
Certainly, it was the most beautifully shot snuff movie I've ever seen. I mean, don't get
None of this
Caleb
8mm stuff here.
Yeah.
So,
Isn't it technically not? I mean, I'm being nitpicky, but it's not a snuff movie if
Well,
somebody
no,
doesn't
I mean-
actually die.
No, but I mean, the idea being that.
One last thing I want to throw
Yeah.
in before we go to colors.
Sure.
Judas hangs himself. You know, there are opposing versions, one of which Judas
Yeah,
throws
he's a
himself off a
landmine.
cliff.
Yeah.
They don't even try to
Yeah.
resolve those. So now we know, thanks to Mel Gibson, the part about him throwing himself off the cliff is not divinely inspired. Thank you, Mel.
Yeah.
Yes.
Must not be. Yeah.
and given how the rest of the movie went, I'm kind of glad that they went with a plain bear hanging.
Yeah.
Because the other one, he would have been a landmine and just exploded on the screen or something.
Now that would have been. Yeah.
Okay.
Wow. Well, just to wrap this up, and we'll take to callers. This obviously because of all the pre-release hype and all the publicity, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This movie I think it's like 117 million in its first 5 days.
I heard 20 million the first day is what I heard.
26 million the first day, but its first 5 days, so I think it was like the fourth or fifth biggest 5-day opening ever.
Wow.
Okay.
Really?
If I never want to hear Mel Gibson get on any talk show again. He can complain about this, that, or the other, but if I hear him complain about how he's being persecuted for his movie, right?
Yeah.
Please.
This guy he got a 3,000 screen release for a movie that ordinarily would have died in art houses, right? I mean, it's not even a foreign language film. It's a dead language film.
Yeah.
Okay, with subtitles. It's
Yeah,
hyper violent.
You're reading the entire movie.
He got an R rating for a movie that any other movie would have gotten an NC-17 for. This amount of violence, and he's making 100. It's 117 million first 5 days. It's probably going to top out around 280, 250, or 280. Half of which is going to go directly into his pocket. If that's persecution, sign me up.
There is no better publicity for a flick than having controversy surround it. And
sure. And there's no easier controversy
we here
around a movie
are
than a Jesus
probably
movie.
contributing to that because people might go and say, that sounds I want to see for myself.
Yeah.
But we're not about saying you shouldn't see this movie.
Yeah.
Because
Oh, no.
It's
unlike
a movie
Christians,
based on the
we're not
story.
trying to
Yeah.
prevent people from seeing stuff. We're like, well, this is interesting.
Yeah.
In fact, I think that this movie is a good antidote for.
Yeah.
Well, I 100% support any filmmaker making any film that they see fit to make. And if there had been a sort of movement to try to inhibit him making this movie or try to inhibit the release of this movie, try to suppress it or any way, I would have come out foursquare against that.
Yeah.
So I'm totally for freedom
Mel
of
makes
artistic.
off like a bandit in making
Yeah.
this movie. More power to him.
Yeah.
But again, just final note on it, I guess. If you are going to see this, it's horrifically violent.
Yeah.
It is horrifically gory.
no, don't take the kids. For real.
No kids should go see this.
Okay, phone call time, 477-2288.
Can I just mention to the producer that our clock is stopped and we won't know when the show ends?
All right. Well, maybe
Okay.
one of our crew can joggle the thingy in the
Can
back.
kick it once or twice?
Okay. All right, there we are.
There you go.
Okay, Liz has been patiently waiting on line one. Hey, how you doing?
Hi. I just wanted to comment on the why would Christians or people who are currently believers want to see this movie since it is preaching to the choir. I'm not a Christian, but I grew up in an evangelical church, and I could see two reasons why people would buy bundles of tickets and take their church members to go see it. One would be that it's something that they see in their eyes that strengthens their faith, not so much would convert their friends, even though they say do bring your non-believer friends. And the second thing is just something for them to rally around, something for them to, like a revival, when you have revival at Baptist Church, it's something for you all to rally around and talk about and get excited about, because, you know, it's really hard to get excited about something that happened 2,000 years ago, so it seems like a very current eventish sort of thing to get excited about.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any mystery to why they want people to see it.
And a lot of them have, again, they have this attitude that that most Hollywood mainstream entertainment is just this awful filth, and that is not in concert with good homespun Christian values. And this is a movie that finally comes along, and it's about Jesus, and I guess all but for the beating him to death part, presents him in a positive light, I guess, right? Presents him as this martyr for our sins, and a lot of Christians have the idea that popular entertainment is all smutty and nasty and anti-Christian, and so this is a way for them to sort of get their own back and have something out there making millions and hundreds of millions of dollars that is good and positive Christian, and maybe that'll, we won't see so much of that icky Janet Jackson or Britney Spears on TV anymore,
Right. Although I'd like to throw in, saying about mainstream Hollywood movies, it's rare to find a movie where the final message is, this religion stuff is all bunk. I mean, usually when you have a movie that's going in that direction, I'm thinking of like Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, or even Bruce Almighty, which I saw recently. The final message is, but you should really have some faith anyway.
So it is generally friendly to the very idea of it, and
and it's not uncommon for movies to be rabidly anti-science. I mean, it's a proud tradition going back to Frankenstein.
Oh yeah, that is the case.
Kind of a tangent there, but
but we fully agree with you, Liz. And all that. Have you seen the movie yet?
No, I really don't want to see it. Even my parents, who are still Christian, they don't want to see it because they are still evangelical, not evangelical as they used to be, but they're still Baptist, and they don't wish to see it because they believe that it's not important or miraculous that someone died, because we all die. I mean, if dying in a brutal way is a reason for martyrhood, then Sharon Tate should be our savior. They believe that...
This is your parents' attitude?
This is my parents' attitude. They said the resurrection is the important part, and seeing someone die brutally has no effect on their faith. Their faith is that Jesus...
I thought the dying, the suffering horribly for your sins part is kind of
this gets back to context, and this is why I don't think the film works as a narrative, right? Which is that Gibson focuses on the scourging and the crucifixion to the exclusion of Christ's teachings, for the most part. I mean, you get like these brief flashback scenes at the Last Supper where he says, love everybody, and then it's back to crunch, right?
Yeah, they think a better movie would be one that shows the miracles of Jesus, showing him touching people's lives.
And Gibson's gotten a lot of criticism
from movies
from Christians where, for glossing over the resurrection. Like you said, it's like this brief thing at the end.
That's like a little epilogue.
Where he kind of walks out of the tomb with sort of this it's payback time look on his face. So I guess you're going to get Passion of the Christ 2, Judgment Day. It's gonna go, Jesus is made of liquid metal. So I don't know, something like that. But he's caught a lot of flack. That is the negative criticisms of the movie are all about that. It's sort of like it's the violence without the context of what should be the important and meaningful thing about Jesus, which is his teachings and then his his teachings resurrection and what have you. So those are all good points. Well, we can tell you if you're not in the mood for just some really nasty, gross stuff, then you're well advised to not see the film.
You will not enjoy the movie, no matter what your disposition is. You may feel enlightened by it. You won't have fun for 2 hours.
No. Definitely not.
It's not a laugh fest by any stretch.
But I mean, not all movies are supposed to be just to laugh at.
No. Well, we thank you for your call, Liz.
Thanks.
Take care.
Thanks.
Okay. Who do we have next? Who?
Karen.
Okay, that would be, I think Sue on line 2 has been holding for a while. Hi, Sue.
Hey, Martin, Ashley, and I'm sorry I don't remember your name.
I'm Russell.
And you're going to be a new co-host?
I'm going to be part of the co-host tag team.
Yeah, we're going to be rotating out for a bit.
Martin, you'll be missed.
Well, thank you.
I still miss Jeff.
Well,
Jeff
actually,
will be part of the co-host.
He's one of the
tag team.
rotating ones.
he's going to be
too.
on like once a month now.
Yep.
Apparently.
Well, that'll be cool, but I remember the old days when
Yeah.
Jeff kind of reminded me a little bit like of Tucker on Crossfire.
Oh, Jeff.
Yeah, just the tire, not not behavior. but-
Suspenders, except instead of the bow tie, but
Yeah. When you were talking about the scholarships, Ashley,
right.
it wasn't clear to me if this was a public scholarship or a public school.
I'm not positive on the school specifically, but the money was definitely a state or federal scholarship.
And as I recall, the state in question has very strict laws about separation of church and state. I mean, even above and beyond what the Constitution says.
Yeah.
Well, see, what I'm thinking, my thinking on this is if a school that takes public money has a degree plan that offers theology, I don't know whether they're making priests and or preachers or something, but if it's one of the degree plans offered, then perhaps the problem isn't whether the person should be able to get the scholarship, but whether the degree plan should be offered in the first place.
Yeah,
Yes,
well,
that was my
this
question.
guy
I
actually...
took some theology classes at UT and loved them because they just helped broaden my information and my perspective on other people.
Yeah, see, that was my whole curiosity about the whole thing, is that why, if this is a problem, if this is sort of a public monies and a separation issue problem, why then would a theology scholarship be offered in the first place, and why would they have public universities offering theology degrees? And clearly theology, just the study of theology, does not mean you're going into the seminary. It doesn't mean you're going into the priest.
And I'm thinking,
this guy in particular, though, was studying to be a priest. He said it.
Okay.
I do remember that, and
was-
due to this hold-up with getting his scholarship money, he switched his degree to lawyer to a law degree. So we're going to crank out another J Secular.
Yeah. Okay. So right. Okay.
well, see, I was thinking that the issue might be more with the degree plan itself being offered. If it's a state-funded school, should you be training preachers?
Yeah.
If it's not a preacher, if in the end you just know more about all religions or a religion or some religions, I'm not sure that's a bad thing.
Yeah, see, I thought that was what a theology degree was, and that if you wanted to be an ordained minister or a priest, you did have to go to seminary, which is like an entirely different. And that's not the same thing as going to UT and taking religious studies.
But I'm not sure because I don't think I have enough information.
Yeah.
I'm surprised y'all weren't instantly converted and seeing the Passion. I mean, that's what Fox led me to believe.
Yeah, I was really afraid of that going in.
I was almost converted to vegetarianism.
But I haven't seen it yet.
It's going to depend on your taste for just rivers of blood and flayed flesh.
But the bad guys, some of the other arguments I've heard, mostly from people who haven't seen it, have involved like the bad guys being Jews and should they be Romans. There are only Jews and Romans at the time, so the bad guys have to be probably some of both.
Yeah.
And all religions that I can think of have had periods, eras, where the top people are the bad guys. Like, look at Cardinal Richelieu and what he did to...
Yeah. Well, look at Cardinal Law. Look at the whole recent, the Catholic pedophilia flap.
So I don't find it hard to believe that the head of what I understood was one of the most powerful Jewish sects of the time might be a bad guy. I don't find that hard to
Yeah, well, some of Gibson's defenders have said that it's not the Jews that he's blaming for Christ's scourging and torment in this film. It's it's evil, nasty bureaucrats people who are in charge or in positions of power, no matter what, whether you're Jewish, Roman, etc., etc. But the problem is that the movie does soft pedal Pontius Pilate's participation in the whole thing, as do the Gospels.
Well, what were his numbers at the time? I mean, did he have a huge garrison of Romans, or was he small enough of a number that he had to placate those in charge at the time? I mean, I don't know that much of the history.
A lot of historians have talked about how this film and coincidentally the Gospels are not all that historically accurate in that most extra biblical sources for Pontius Pilate and who he was and what sort of governor he was that he was a really ruthless SOB. He alienated the emperor, who was not exactly a nice man. He was recalled from his post after a few years for being a little too forceful in putting down and keeping the Judean populace under the yoke, as it were.
I'd like to mention something about the biblical, about the biblical perspective on the role of the Jews. The Book of John is the only one which really plays up how nasty the Jews are. And the Book of John, no coincidence, scholars agree, is the newest book. Written some 70 years after the fact.
Yeah, it's like into the 2nd century when that was.
And the other 3 books don't really pin the blame on the Jews, unlike the Book of John, where he puts words into the Jews' mouth saying, "Yes, let his death be on our heads and the head of our children and our children's children," and they're all over it with gusto. And I've read a book. I've read a discussion from a Jewish perspective about how, by this point in history, Christianity was catching on, but it was a big point of embarrassment that the Jews were not going wholeheartedly for it. It's embarrassing because supposedly Christ's role is King of the Jews, and here they are saying, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
So then John comes along and writes some really nasty stuff about the Jews that's not in the other 3 books.
Well, that's one of the problems with the Gospels, is that they are very different.
Right. But, I'm suggesting that John actually took a very specific propagandistic perspective
there were some political
on
motivations underlying.
Where he was trying to work into the story that, there's a reason the Jews aren't credible. It's because,
they killed Jesus.
They're fallen people now.
Yeah. And
so by consciously focusing on the Book of John, Mel Gibson definitely made a decision about where he wants his story to be coming from.
Sure. And the writings from that stigmatic, the Anne Catherine Emmerich. I'm not quite sure how much of the script was taken from her writings, but very early on, right, when there were reports that this was going to be this horrible anti-Semitic film, right? Anne Catherine Emmerich was this, stigmatic, quote unquote. She and wrote this lengthy treatise called the Dolorous Passion of Our Lord Jesus Christ, where she refers to the Jews as the perverse murderers of our Lord, and et cetera, and is not very flattering. And there was some concern that the early script drafts were drawing not just from the Gospel of John, but from this thing that she wrote. I don't know how much of that translated to the final film, and it seemed like a lot of the stuff that was in the final film that you couldn't actually point to a gospel passage was stuff that Gibson just made up, like the little demon children.
Yes.
I don't know where that came from.
That's a little bit outside the text.
Yeah. Just
I remember demon children in the Gospels. Are there really demon children?
Well, in the film, Judas is hounded by these.
Yeah, by his little demon boys and run out into the country. And,
it's really
that
strange.
Was interesting.
Yeah, that was like just the most off the wall part of the film.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think might surprise real religious people is that, have you ever seen Joan of Arcadia?
No.
Heard about it.
It's fun fiction. God comes and talks to her all the time, and he's different shapes and different people and stuff. And it's entertaining fiction. They do little stories around it, and it's fun. And it's fun enough that my whole family, which is that's 4 people that are all actually atheists, enjoy watching it. It's fun fiction.
Yeah.
So I think the problem with Mel's movie is it's not fun fiction.
Yeah.
It's depressing and bleak and sort of nauseating fiction. But we appreciate your call, and thanks.
All right,
Take care.
bye.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Colin.
Okay, Ed's been holding for a while on. Hey, how's it going? You're on the air?
Pretty good.
Hi.
Hey, I was calling about the Passion movie.
Yep.
I haven't seen it yet. I probably won't go see it. From what I can see from the clips, it doesn't look like it'd be very entertaining. For me, anyway.
Yeah.
But I was wondering, it seems like the typical Passion play, which, and they claim that it's supposed to be so historically correct and all this stuff, but it seems like to me, the Christ figure, as a visual artist, he seems very, I guess, European.
Yeah, very Anglo-Saxon.
Just the image of him
Yeah.
alone.
A lot of white people in this movie, no
Exactly.
question.
Although Jim, the actor who plays Jesus in this movie, Jim Caviezel, he does. I mean, he looks kind of Semitic.
Have you seen him without? I mean, have you seen Frequency, which I thought was a great movie?
Yeah, but I mean, in the way they made him up.
Well, and then plus also, I think you're thinking of modern Semitic, because during the time of Christ, Jews looked a specific way, and historically,
that's a good point.
the chances are he looked like your typical Jewish person in that area at that time.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's very accurate.
Right. Well, it's a lot of historians have pointed out like a whole bunch of tiny little details where it's just inaccurate. Like he has the Roman centurion speaking this kind of colloquial street Latin when they would have been speaking Greek, actually.
Right.
And just little things like that.
My question was, since I haven't seen the movie, how does Herod look? Does he look Semitic?
Oh, glad you pointed that out.
Forget what.
Because
Herod appeared.
Remember all of the homophobia charges that Gibson has been slapped with over the years, ever since Braveheart?
Right.
He's got Herod in this bad wig, and he's a complete flamer, right? And in this film, right?
That's a traditional thing.
Yeah, and I'm not quite sure where he got that aspect of the characterization from, but it's certainly not going to make the homophobia charges against Gibson go away. But
that's been going on for a long time. Even if you remember, like Jesus Christ Superstar.
Yeah, this is real mincing.
Herods are very gay, but I was curious to know if the other Jewish people that were condemning the Jesus character looked more Semitic. Because it's sort of a tactic that they used to use, that they would always make Christ look like this Aryan guy,
nice
and then all the Jews, when in fact Christ was a Jew. I mean, So
there are a lot of hooked noses among these shouting mobs. Again, I don't. Some people have will make more of that than others. But
it's a tactic that's been used for years, for thousands, years. And I think it seems like a typical passion play with...
And
I should mention a counterpoint as a concession to someone who might be watching, and I've seen him mention this, which was that, technically there's no place in the Bible where Jesus is actually described, and they don't get into that much detail about his heritage. So it's not impossible that he could have been a white guy.
And half his genes supposedly came from God, which can pretty much do whatever you want.
We didn't.
Jesus looked like Dennis Rodman. I don't know.
Well, a lot of that would certainly be eye-opening casting. The point has been made that even if Gibson was not being overtly and intentionally anti-Semitic in the movie, and I don't know that, I'm not willing to tar him with that brush, because clearly, if he's making a straightforward adaptation of the Gospel of John,
as he sees it,
the anti-Semitism certainly it's latent in there, but people who already have those feelings can certainly take a lot of ammunition for their already existing anti-Semitism from watching this film,
right?
And that is certainly a ethically questionable.
If you're not anti-Semitic going in, then you probably won't be coming out. But if you are, this will be another see, I told you so moment.
Yeah.
Like that. Did you see that story about there?
Yeah, there's
I
already
think it was
been
last week.
Yeah, there's already been a church.
There was a church that
marquee.
had a marquee that says, "Jews killed Jesus." Settled.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
So there's already been one bit of backlash.
Right. So it's, if nothing else, it's emboldened them to now it's popular to say.
Although that marquee, the pastor of that church, who's completely unapologetic about it, quotes a passage from 1 Thessalonians, which I read it, and and that passage there says, "And the Jews who killed Jesus." Again, if you want to lob charges of anti-Semitism, it doesn't really start with Gibson. I think there's plenty of fuel for that in the Scripture.
Right. The problem is people who do not hold these repugnant anti-Semitic views, nevertheless have tied themselves to saying, well, I believe the whole Bible, and the Bible has some stuff that a lot of people would not associate with, would not necessarily want to identify with. But but most people don't read the whole thing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
they've just heard they're supposed to buy the whole thing, so they say they do.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, it goes way back. Like I said, I've studied art for years, and even like paintings from 1,000 years ago. When you see the crucifixion scenes and whatnot, you see like an Aryan Christ surrounded by Jewish people.
The European Christ, which is the traditional rendering from, of course, where the Roman Catholic Church, which
exactly.
is European.
And so it's all tied together, and so it's all just kind of the typical passion play thing.
Yeah. And
so nothing really new.
Yeah, the truth of the matter is that no one, even if we had good, solid, rock-hard evidence that there was a Jesus Christ and all these things happened historically, no one knows what this person's appearance was like. No one knows anything about Christ's appearance.
Yeah.
Right. And, from what I've seen and read, it just seems like to me some of the visual stuff that I've seen, it really was more for drama than for historical accuracy.
Well, that's the case. I mean, there's certainly...
And, that's right, it's a movie, but I don't see it as entertainment.
Again, the entire scourging scene comes from one sentence in the Bible. So.
Right.
So, anyway. But, all right, well, we appreciate your call and your input.
Thanks.
Take care.
Yeah, which is actually kind of a surprising thing, too, going back to some of the effeminate characters in there, like the devil. Jesus usually, not in this movie particularly, but just in general, is usually a fairly effeminate-looking, rarely is he butch. And very big and beefy or anything like that.
He has the shiny, manageable hair, but so, apart from that,
he's got a beard though. So
I had a friend who at UT, this girl, and when she was a little girl, she was going to a Catholic school, and she said she got in trouble with one of the nuns because she saw a picture of Jesus on the bulletin board one day, and she said that Jesus was fine. And she thought he was hot.
Actually,
it didn't quite like that.
I recall a time when I hung out, watched one of the roving preachers on campus when I was in college, Cliff something. I don't know. He's famous.
Okay.
And somebody said, "Didn't Jesus have long hair?" Because he was razzing some guy about his long hair, and he said, "No, that's Holly Weird." And then somebody said, "Well, what did his hair really look like?" And he said, "Oh, it looked like mine." He has the short little street.
So he's got knowledge of Jesus' hairdo.
Yeah, I got your number, bud. Okay, Fran on line 1's been holding for a long time. Hi, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
We are fine.
Fred.
I want to recommend a different movie.
Okay.
A very well-made, highly rated, fantastic movie called Touching the Void.
Okay.
It's a movie about survival of two mountain climbers who happen to run into difficulty in the Andes.
Oh, okay.
And what one of the characters went through, I'm sure if he had a choice between that and what he went through in crucifixion, he might have picked crucifixion. But what was the interesting part about it is that he probably would not have survived if he believed in God.
Because?
He makes it very clear when he was faced with unbelievable odds that I'm not sure that I could possibly ever summon the courage that he did to get through them. He made it very clear that he did not believe in God, and that if he was going to get out of this, it was going to be he himself who did it.
Yeah.
And by the end of the movie, I was convinced that had he believed in God, he would have given up at any number of points before he actually survived.
Wow.
But I mean, if atheism never came up in the movie, I would still say this is one of the best movies I've ever seen.
That's an IMAX film, isn't it?
No.
Oh, it's not. Okay.
No, this is a regular film in the Arbor, one of those art films you talked about earlier.
Okay.
That
movie that should be on 3,000
relegated to.
Yeah.
But it's also one that has received 4-star ratings from just about every major critic.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
But and it's a different movie. I mean, it's got a 4-star rating.
Is it a documentary or is it like a drama of what happened to this guy? Or is
it's a combination of both.
Okay.
And that's where it is unique, and that's where it turns. And this is the one movie where at the end nobody got out of their seats for 10 minutes while the credits rolled.
Wow.
I have never been in a movie where people have been riveted
Yeah.
You know,
to screens like that.
I've seen one movie where that happened, where everybody sat in their seat through the end credits, and that was For All Mankind. But the moon
I've never seen that one.
It came out like 1990, but it was about the moon landings. So they had the actual moon landing footage, and they just that was like the one time I've ever been in a film where the entire audience just sat like speechless through the closing credits and the lights coming up.
I always sit through the closing credits of a Pixar movie because they have funny stuff at the end.
Well, yeah, but I mean, but you know to do that, right? But yeah, well, that's great. And, and the whole religion thing aside, whether or not the guy mentioned believing in God or not, if you want to see a movie and draw inspiration away from it, what's a better kind of movie to see? Something where you have a real situation where a real person ends up in like a horrible scenario where they muster their inner strength and courage and get out of it, or something where you just have somebody beaten to death for 2 hours and that's supposedly held as some sort of paragon of martyrdom. I mean, graphic violence and gore for 2 hours, or somebody, mustering all of their inner courage to like save themselves from.
Well, let me just add to that. The whole story about in a foxhole there are no atheists. Well, here's a guy who was in worse than a foxhole.
Yeah.
And where the movie is both commentary by the guys. This is I forget about 1980 something, where this climb took place, and these guys are being interviewed today. So it's a cut. They cut back and forth between the interviews with the climbers and the events, which was filmed. Unbelievable camera work, by the way. You would wonder how the cameramen survived this film. But when they cut back and forth, the guy was talking, and he was in certainly a position where a foxhole-like case, where he says, I was brought up as I forget what he was brought up as, but I do not believe in God, and I wasn't about to pray to him in this situation.
Wow. Well, that takes a lot of courage to say in this movie.
Yeah.
Well, we really appreciate the recommendation.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. It's good to know something about that.
Okay.
So thank you for calling.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Take care. Okay, Jerry's been holding on line too. Hey, how's it going?
All right, how are you folks?
We're well.
Good show today.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
And basically, two things I wanted to call about, one of which is to say farewell to you, Martin, and wish you well.
Thank you.
And congratulations to Ashley.
Thank you.
Also, this is something you hadn't addressed, but I don't know whether you were aware of a particular science story that would CNN earlier this week. I caught it like at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Okay. Wait, Jerry's going in and out. We're like losing him, and I think we've lost him.
Nothing now.
Have we lost him? Okay.
Sorry.
We're sorry about that. Please call back, and we'll get you on like immediately. We'll bump you to the top of the thing. Sorry, but thank you, Jerry. Yeah, I'll miss the place, but I'm still going to be around, still doing ACA stuff. So, Mike on line 3. We've lost him
Apparently
as well.
not.
Okay, so when Jerry calls back, we've got about 7 minutes left in the show. So anybody have a?
Somebody posted to one of our message boards an absolutely nauseating little tidbit about the movie, which was Mel Gibson saying in an interview that he did not appear anywhere in the movie except one place. His hands were nailing Jesus to the cross.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
Because that's very symbolic of how, it's really all of us who are doing
he
it.
felt that he was partly responsible
Yeah.
for getting him nailed up
That's-
into suffering. So,
Well, I can't. I'm not really going to take him to task for that because like Dario Argento, who makes all these incredible gory Italian horror films. Anytime you have like a close-up of the murderer's hands and the glove taking the knife, and those are like his hands.
Yes,
He does that, so that's his little Hitchcock
Titanic,
moment.
James Cameron was drawing the charcoal sketch of the naked chick.
No,
really.
well, that's any respecting director. Okay, I'm going to do this bit. All right. While we are waiting for the remaining calls to line up, I'm going to go ahead and do this now. Do not forget TV at atheist-community.org. That's TV at atheist-community.org. That's our viewer feedback address. If you try to call in and you don't manage to get on the air and you have some things to say, some comments to make, that is our viewer feedback address, TV at atheist-community.org. Send us an email. We answer all of them. And the best ones we will bring on the air, or at least he will, henceforth, and we'll put up on the website and what have you, et cetera, et cetera. And we appreciate all of our callers and all of our feeder backers. Okay. Jim is on line 1. We've got about 5 minutes left, so if Jerry can get in this time, we'll try him. Hi, how you doing? You're on the air.
Hey, doing great. An earlier caller was asking about size of the Roman garrison in Jerusalem.
Oh, right, okay.
And not very big, but the Romans kept a much larger garrison in Caesarea and had a practice of bringing down reinforcements every Passover.
Oh, okay.
Because that was a time when the Jews tended to become particularly uppity.
Ah, yes.
They needed the extra.
Right.
Yeah, drinking wine is a big part of Jewish celebrations.
Yeah. And isn't it like, the passage in the Gospels where agreeing to release one prisoner every year was supposedly a Passover tradition, and it was designed to keep those uppity Jews from just completely turning their drunken revelry into a big uprising, an insurrection.
But they never did that.
No, right. Well, they never released.
Never washed his hands of a crucifixion either.
Oh, so you're saying that the traditional releasing of a prisoner every year was actually never happened?
No.
Interesting. Okay.
Oh, really?
So that whole passage.
Nobody can figure out the whole Barabbas story.
Yeah.
By the way, that Barabbas story
the name doesn't make any sense. Barabbas, son of the father.
That Barabbas story, I should mention, was the one bit of comic relief in the entire movie. That was really funny, actually.
That's true.
You're strutting around like, oh yeah, they're letting me off.
Yeah.
Well,
I'll tell you, but you're saying that the name Barabbas translates to son of the father?
Well, yes, like Bar.
Okay.
And then Abba.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, son of the father.
So that could just be another, gospel contrivance.
Yeah.
Well, it's like the Judas stories. I mean, you have these kind of folkloric elements that get weaved in. Nobody really knows.
Yeah, and I've heard that a lot of scholars interpret even the character of Judas, the name Judas, to be as just a metaphorical character.
Well, Judas Iscariot, that's sometimes
Jews.
taken to be from the Latin Sicarius, which means assassin Sicarius, the Sicari being one of the many rebel groups that existed at the time.
Wow.
Interesting.
I mean, it's right out of Life of Brian. Anthony Burgess said that Life of Brian better portrayed life in first century Palestine than any serious movie he'd ever seen. It's true.
Yeah, that's
I mean, who are we? The People's Front of Judea or the Popular Front? I've forgotten.
Right.
Guys over there.
Yeah, that's a good point. Wow, lots of really interesting information there, Jim.
Yeah, and let me just share this with you real quick. I saw one interview with Mel Gibson where he said that the curse with the Jews, someone said, we and all our children are cursed for generations.
Caiaphas, yeah.
That is actually in the movie, but not in the subtitle.
That's right. He said that he took the line out of the movie, but all he took out were the subtitles. So it's a little disingenuous of him.
Right. So all the people that can understand mispronounced Aramaic.
Yeah. All these actors phonetically learning their lines.
Right.
And all these Harry dialogue coaches going, no, let's try it. So. Wow, well, that's some really interesting information about that period.
Thank you very much.
And we thank you very much for your call, Jim. Okay, take care. Think about that guy for one of your rotating co-hosts. Good Lord. It was about... okay, Jerry 3 is back. Okay, we're going to try him again. I'm afraid that we're not going to get around to... Hi.
Hi.
Okay, anyway, just got about a minute and a half, so throw it at us. We're sorry.
Well, basically, what amused me was the way that they phrased it on the news made it sound like, well, this is something you can sit down and watch the planets actually forming. And correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't it usually take about a few billion years?
I think so.
For a planet to form?
Yeah, it's
not
actually
in the course
forming
of
a
an
solar
afternoon.
system.
Millions at least.
Yeah, millions. Or
basically, it hit me because that's the misconception, and I think this ties in with the people's problems with evolution, of the amount of time it takes for these things.
Yeah.
It's easy to, it's difficult to wrap your brain around the idea not only of billions and billions of years, but when you try to tell somebody that for 90% of the period of time that there's been any life at all on this planet, it was microbes, and these are hundreds of millions of human lifetimes. It's very difficult to wrap your brain around that. A number that high is just a number.
Right.
People have a comprehension of periods of time like the weekend or a month or 2 years, but 100 million years, 300 billion years, those are just numbers.
Yeah.
So
and so many people are innumerate. I mean, number illiterate, basically.
So. But well, thank you for your call, Jerry. I'm sorry we don't have more time for you, but we're down to like our last minute, and we got to go. So
good luck, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Tracy, who called but couldn't get through, try to send us a viewer feedback email at that address, tv@atheist-community.org. I want to thank all my crew, everybody, just for their hard work over the years, and especially patience sometimes with me over the years. Russell, producing, and Ashley co-hosting, doing an awesome job. People in the past. David Clark was my co-host for a little while. Jeff D, that I learned a lot from. Just everybody involved with the show, and I hope that more HCA members over the coming years involve themselves in the show a lot more.
Done us proud, Martin.
Well, thank you.
Good job.
I'm still around. I'll be around. So, thank you again, and remember, theists, we don't hate you. We just think you're wrong. See you soon.